What's going on, guys? Rye Flawless here, and today we're going to talk about the honest truth about Scarlet and Violet. Are these games bad games? I know this is a bit of a controversial topic. No matter which way I go on this, if I say it's bad or if I say it's good, someone is probably going to be upset. But without further ado, let's talk about what's new in the world of Pokemon. Let's start off by saying that I'm not one of the people that's going around saying that the performance issues in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not real. They're very real, and just about everything you've heard about them is true. So as far as things used to optimize Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the Nintendo Switch, they use things like lowering the frame rate of animations of NPCs at a distance, which is something that is commonly used all throughout last generation hardware, and other games that use this technique would be games like Monster Hunter Rise and Pokemon Legends Arceus. And they use that on monsters or Pokemon that are farther away in a distance. They slow down those animation speeds. And another game that I think uses this quite a bit, and not necessarily even at a far distance, but if you play Fall Guys on the Nintendo Switch, the other players' character animations are slowed down to maybe 15 FPS just so that you, as the playing character on your game, can experience a fluent 30 FPS gameplay when you're running through these courses. That being said, is the performance in these other games comparable to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? And that's where we need to look into a little bit more details to kind of assess where Pokemon Scarlet and Violet stand. So, the easiest game to compare it to, because it's another open world style Pokemon game, would be Pokemon Legends Arceus. I would describe Pokemon Legends Arceus as the highest performing Pokemon game of all time. And what I mean by that is, in handheld mode, it runs at a consistent 720p and is locked at 30 FPS and doesn't deviate from that. And in docked mode, Pokemon Legends Arceus runs at 1080p and 900p. Depending on the areas and different situations, it may drop, but it only goes from 1080p and then it'll drop to 980p, and it pretty much holds a perfect 30 FPS except for in that switch in resolution. So I think it possibly would have been even better if they would have just kept it at 900p docked, then you would have gotten that steady 30 FPS. But I think Game Freak, for whatever reason, tries to always max out at that 1080p, even when it may not be ideal, and we definitely see in Scarlet and Violet that may not have been the best option. Alright, so now looking at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We're getting a lot of fluctuations between 30 FPS and 25 FPS in handheld and dock mode. There's frame pacing issues, and there's times where I was playing and it would literally just stop for like half a second to load in textures or what have you. But there are more demanding cutscenes that do run at 20 FPS within the game as well. I believe that 20 FPS is the lowest that you have as far as gameplay overall, but like I said before, they do use slowed down animations on characters throughout the game that do look really jarring. The windmill in the back, I think, drops as low as like 3 FPS, and there's a cutscene in the beginning in the school where almost none of the NPC characters that you're looking at in the classroom are running at a decent frame rate. They're all running like 15 or 10 FPS, and it's a really jarring cutscene, and it makes me wonder why they tried to run it in the engine the way they did instead of using an animated cutscene. It just looks really bad, and it's very strange. Now let's talk about the resolution of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So both handheld and docked use dynamic resolution. In docked mode, it's between 1080p and 864p, and it stays closer to that 864p area. And in handheld mode, it's between 720p and 576p, although it is fair to note that it does stay closer to that 720p number. These numbers in particular are very similar to the performance that we saw in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Just a little side note to add to all this, it's very odd to me that out of all the Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and Pokemon Sword and Shield, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, for some reason the mainline core Pokemon titles, being Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, are the ones that seem to have the most performance issues out of all the Pokemon games, and that's including spin-off games like Pokemon Snap or Pokken Tournament DX. Does all of this mean that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are bad games? I can say without any hesitation, no, they are not bad games at all, and I actually think that they're great games in the Pokemon franchise. And the reason for that is it really took the concepts from Pokemon Legends Arceus and really added on to them. Yes, they took out a few things and took out a lot of the real-time action elements that are in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but this is a core Pokemon game. This is a traditional turn-based JRPG type game, and they took the exploration from Pokemon Legends Arceus and expanded into this big, huge open world. Not several big open world areas, but no, this is one cohesive open world, and you can explore, interact with all these different environments and Pokemon and multiple storylines. And to draw another connection to Pokemon Legends Arceus, I know I sound like a broken record, but these are two games that are easily the most comparable. Pokemon Legends Arceus, while being a great game and a game that I really loved, it didn't have the same replayability and extended play of a core Pokemon game. Once you beat it, and I did, I played tons and tons of that game. I beat the main story, I beat the post-game story. When they released the free DLC, I beat that story, and I even completed the Pokedex to get the Shiny Charm. But doing all of that, I only got 100 hours out of that game. As far as Pokemon games, I generally get near 600 hours in any given core Pokemon title, and there's really not enough content to make me want to go back and play 600 hours of Legends Arceus. And yet in the first 10 days or so in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I have over 60 hours into the game. I'll easily get hundreds more hours into this title because of the raids, because I'm certain that there's going to be DLC, because of all the PvP stuff. The rank ladder starts December 1st. There's so many things that you can do in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that isn't accessible in a higher reviewed game like Pokemon Legends Arceus. And for me, these are the most important elements of the game. The fact that it has that extended play, the fact that I can play on the rank ladder and play a lot of different multiplayer features other than just trading Pokemon, which it does have. You have surprise trades back, which is one of my favorite things added to Pokemon back when it was added in Gen 6 in X and Y. And looking at the Pokemon themselves in particular, I think this is one of the best games as far as looking at the Pokemon's design. Even the returning Pokemon, the textures, the shadowing, everything about the designs looks the best that they've ever looked. I think each Pokemon looks very, very good. And even in the wild when you're going through, even though there's pop-up and things like that, I think the Pokemon, the individual animations that each Pokemon have are very good. Like, one of my favorites is Psyduck, because you can watch Psyduck just walking around on land, then it'll go into the water and start swimming. But you see things with like flying Pokemon where they kind of congregate and then disperse and fly somewhere else, or even see them flying in the sky together. And today I went past a Pachirisu that climbed up a tree. So they all have these little unique interactions within the world around them that makes it feel like legitimate wildlife in a way Pokemon never has. And another thing I want to point out is that this game added the most new Pokemon out of any Pokemon game since Generation 5. And I can say that I genuinely enjoy almost every single new Pokemon's design, which is not normally the case for me. There's normally one or two, or maybe even more than that I'm like, I don't really care for that. But I think all the new ones in this game are very, very good. Now, would I recommend this game to anyone? Of course I would. I love this game. I think it's an amazing game. I would recommend it to anyone. I know that it's kind of tough to say, should we buy it since it has all these performance issues? Should we be boycotting this game because, we should expect better from Game Freak? The thing is that it's a double-edged sword, and it's, there's two sides to this coin, because this is a jump in the right direction, in my opinion, as far as gameplay goes, as far as where we should be looking at a Pokemon game in 2022 and beyond. We should be looking towards these big open world areas with these Pokemon that genuinely seem more like wildlife. And so in that case, we should be supporting this game because they did that right. Now, there is a reason to say no, it's not in the quality I would want it to be in, so I won't buy this game. So there's, it really comes down to personal preference. I would say for people who just want a single player experience and maybe play more like PlayStation 4 exclusives that are very fine-tuned and very good, because like God of War is probably graphically one of my favorite games of all time, and things like that. If you're used to a game like that, then maybe the performance issues here might bog you down, but also there's so much to a Pokemon game that's so much different, and I'm not saying that's an excuse for the poor performance of the game, but at the end of the day, you're playing a Pokemon game to play a Pokemon game, and I think this game does a lot of it very well, including having the best story of any Pokemon game. It has 3 separate stories. Each one sends you home happy and leads you to an even bigger and better story to finalize the experience. And I think it's just such a good, well-rounded game that it's hard for me to say that the performance issues are an end-all be-all of should we or should we not support this game. But that's all I have to say on the topic for now. I did love Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think they're great games, and I plan on playing a lot more. But without further ado, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. You're all flawless, and I'll see you next time. Bye.